You know, everyone loves a good legal thriller, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You picture the scene, the marble columns, the intense cross-examination, the jury gasping,
The judge slamming the gavel. Yeah, all that high drama.
all the high drama. But that's mostly fiction, isn't it? Or at least it's the very, very end of a long and frankly kind of messy process.
It is. It's the end of a long, often really boring process.
Exactly. Because before any of that can happen, you have to get a simple piece of paper into a person's hand.
And that person usually does not want that piece of paper.
Not at all. That right there is what they call the last mile problem of the legal system.
And that's our deep dive for today.
That's what we're unpacking. We are looking at the invisible machinery that keeps the courts running, the world of process serving.
And we're not just speaking in generalities. We've got a really great set of source materials here.
We do. We have business insights, service logs, and even some podcast show notes from an operation called Lafayette Process Servers, LLC, down in Ascension Parish, Louisiana.
Right, and the podcast is called Paper Trails. It's hosted by one of the process servers, a guy named Scott Frank. So it gives you this incredibly gritty, ground-level view.
It really does. I mean, we're talking about how legal documents, subpoenas, evictions actually get delivered in 2026.
And it's not just dropping off mail. It's dogs, it's gated communities, it's GPS tracking.
So let's start where the rubber meets the road, literally. Let's talk about the geography.
Which is crucial here. You really can't understand the job without understanding the map.
I was looking at their territory breakdown in the notes. They focus on the 23rd Judicial District Courts.
So for anyone who doesn't have a map of Louisiana in front of them, we're talking about Ascension Parish.
Right, and Scott Frank, in his notes, he breaks it down even further. He talks about the East Bank versus the West Bank.
Yeah, and on the East Bank, you've got Gonzales, Prairieville, Sorrento.
Geismar. And on the West Bank, it's mainly Donaldsonville.
And just hearing that list of towns tells you something important.
Yeah, this isn't a dense city grid.
No. You've got rural routes, big subdivisions, highways. You are driving a lot.
And this brings up a major conflict that I kept seeing in the source material. It seems like there's a bit of a war going on in the industry.
A war is a way to put it.
You've got the local operators like Lafayette Process Servers, and then what they call the out-of-state apps.
The Uberification of the legal system, it's a huge trend.
Yeah.
These big tech platforms, they just hire gig workers.
Someone who might be delivering, a pizza 1 minute and a court summons the next.
Exactly. And Scott Frank seems to be pretty clear that that model is broken.
Well, he emphasizes that his company is Chamber of Commerce verified, specifically the Ascension Parish Chamber. Now, I have to ask, is that just marketing fluff?
It sounds like fluff, I know. But think about it. If you hire some random person from an app and they just toss this subpoena in a ditch,
Right.
who do you call? There's no accountability. They're a ghost.
And your entire lawsuit is stalled.
Precisely. So that chamber verification, it's not just a sticker. It's a signal of permanence. It means I'm a local business. I live here. You know where to find me if something goes wrong.
The notes also emphasize they make daily service runs to places like Gonzales and Prairieville.
And that word daily is key.
It's just density, right? If you're going there every single day, you know the back roads, you know the gate codes.
That is the local knowledge advantage. A gig worker is just following a GPS that might be wrong. A local knows that back road in Geismar floods when it rains.
So for the client, maybe a landlord or a business owner, you're not just buying a delivery, you're buying reliability.
We're buying certainty that it got there. That's the product.
Speaking of getting there, let's talk about what actually happens on the ground. Because the transcripts from that Paper Trails podcast, well, they paint an intense picture.
It's definitely not a boring job.
No, I was reading through the topics, and one of them is just flat out, how to handle aggressive dogs on property.
Which is a legitimate occupational hazard. You're walking onto private property unannounced to deliver bad news.
The family dog doesn't know it's a legal proceeding.
It just sees a stranger on its turf.
And it's not just dogs. The notes mention the use of dotty cameras for high-risk serves. That really stopped me.
Yeah.
I mean, we're used to body cams on police officers.
Right.
Why does a process server need one?
Well, two reasons. The first is obvious. It's for safety. People tend to act a little differently when they know they're on camera.
De-escalation.
Exactly. But the second reason is evidentiary. It's about having undeniable proof.
Proof against the evasive defendant, the person who is actively trying to hide.
The cat and mouse game. The sources talk about this constantly. People hiding in gated communities in Prairieville, thinking they're untouchable.
There's a specific story in the material that really drives this home. It's a testimonial from a property manager, a Jason M. Did you see that one?
Yeah, the eviction case in Gonzales.
That's the one. So you've got to put yourself in Jason's shoes. He's managing a property, has a tenant who hasn't paid rent, and he's losing money every single day.
And he can't do anything until that tenant is legally served. The clock is ticking.
Right. And Jason says this tenant was dodging everyone.
Yeah.
So he brings in Scott Frank's team. And a key isn't just that they got the guy. It's how they proved it.
The GPS verification.
He calls it a game changer for court. He specifically mentions the GPS verified proof.
Okay, let's unpack why that's so huge. Imagine the court hearing. The tenant shows up and just lies. He says, "Your Honor, I never got any notice."
In the old days, it's just the server's word against the tenants.
It's messy. Judges hate it. But now, the server produces a log. It shows a timestamp. It shows a photo of the notice on the door. And crucially, it shows the exact latitude and longitude coordinates of where that server was standing when they took the picture.
You can't argue with a satellite.
You really can't. That technology turns a subjective story, I swear I delivered it, into an objective, undeniable fact. For a guy like Jason, that means the eviction finally moves forward.
That data literally bridged the last mile.
It did.
Okay, that brings us to the part where I want to get a little technical, because I honestly didn't realize how rigid these rules are.
The rules are everything. A small mistake can invalidate the whole thing.
The notes kept referencing Louisiana Code of Civil Procedure, Article 1231. Sounds incredibly dry.
It sounds dry, but for these guys, it's basically their Bible.
So let's break down the 3 levels of service mentioned in the notes. The first one is personal service. That seems straightforward enough.
It is. That's the gold standard. You see the defendant, you confirm their identity, you hand them the papers. Are you John Smith? Yes, you've been served. Done. It's airtight.
But what if John Smith is hiding or just isn't home? The notes talk about the backup plan, domiciliary service.
This is where it gets tricky. Domiciliary service means you can leave the papers at the person's home, their usual place of abode, with someone else.
But not just anyone, right? There's a very specific phrase in the notes. A person of suitable age and discretion.
Suitable age and discretion. That is a legal trapdoor waiting to happen.
So what does that mean in the real world? Not a specific age.
No, it's a judgment call. You obviously can't give it to a 5-year-old. But what about a 15-year-old? Maybe. What if you hand it to their roommate who is clearly intoxicated? Is that suitable discretion?
I can just picture the courtroom argument. The lawyer says, my client wasn't served properly. They gave an eviction notice to a teenager who was playing video games and forgot about it.
And the judge could agree. And just like that, your case is thrown out, you're back to square one.
So a professional server has to make that call, right at the door, thinking about how it will hold up in court.
In a split second, yes.
Then there's the third option, the one that sounds like it's from an action movie, drop service.
The nuclear option.
Scott Frank breaks this down. This isn't just like leaving it on the porch, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a huge misconception. Taping it to the door is not legal service in Louisiana for most citations.
So walk us through a proper drop service. How does that work?
Okay, so you found the defendant in his driveway. You walk up, papers in hand. He sees them, knows what's coming, and says, I'm not taking that. He refuses to touch them.
He thinks he's found a loophole. If I don't touch it, it didn't happen.
Right, but the law sees that coming. At that moment, the server has to perform a kind of ritual. They have to state who the person is, what the documents are, this is a subpoena, and then place the documents in their immediate proximity.
So, to drop it at their feet.
Usually at their feet, yeah, or on the hood of their car. But you have to announce what you're doing. I am leaving these documents here for you. Once you do that, it legally counts as personal service.
Even if he walks away and leaves it in the rain.
Even if he leaves it in the rain, they have been served. But you see the nuance, you get that ritual wrong, and it's not service, it's just littering.
It's incredible. And it all goes back to that big legal concept you mentioned earlier, due process.
That's the so what of all of this. Why do we have these complicated rules? It's because the government has immense power.
They can take your house, your money.
Your freedom. And the Constitution says it can't do that unless you have notice. You have a right to know what's coming. These process servers are the guardians of that right.
Let's shift gears for a second to the business side of this. We've talked about the law, the danger, but it's still a company, Lafayette Process Servers, LLC.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a logistics business.
And I noticed something about their pricing model. Typically, if you hire someone who drives for a job, you expect to pay mileage or an hourly rate.
The standard trip charge plus time.
But they offer flat rate pricing for Prairieville, Gonzales, and Geismar. Why would they do that? Doesn't that expose them to risk? Like, what if there's a huge traffic jam?
It would be risky if you only went there once a month. But this goes back to the daily runs.
Economies of scale.
Exactly. Because they have such high volume in that specific area, they can average out the cost. It's much better for the client, a law firm, a landlord, because it's predictable.
You can budget for it. You don't get a surprise bill because the server got stuck behind a tractor for an hour.
Precisely.
And speaking of the local business ecosystem, I saw the sponsor of the Paper Trails podcast was a company called 337 Media.
Yeah, they do web design and SEO.
Which at first seems like a random pairing. But then you think, how does a landlord in 2026 find a good process server?
They Google process server Ascension Parish.
And if 337 Media does their job, Lafayette Process Servers pops right up. It's this whole interconnected web of local services supporting each other.
It's the modern small-town economy.
Now, before we wrap up, there's a disclaimer in the source material that I think is really, really important to highlight.
Oh, yes. The big one.
The disclaimer states explicitly, we are not a law firm, and our agents are not attorneys. We do not provide legal advice.
That is the hard line in the sand. Scott Frank and his team are logistical experts. They know how to deliver the paper. They cannot tell you what to write on the paper.
So they can't tell you if your eviction notice is legally sound.
No, and they shouldn't. That's the practice of law. Their job is to move a document from point A to point B in a way that will stand up in court. Their job is not to argue the case for you.
It's a protection for everyone involved, really. You want your lawyer playing lawyer.
And your process server playing hunter.
Playing hunter. That is a great way to put it. Because after reading all this, the maps, the dogs, the GPS tracking, that's what it feels like, a hunt.
A hunt for accountability.
So to recap, we've covered a lot of ground. We started with this idea of the last mile of the law.
We saw how local knowledge in a place like Ascension Parish can beat the faceless Uber for Law apps.
We looked at how technology, like GPS and body cams, is turning he said, she said into cold, hard proof.
And we got into the weeds of Article 1231 to see how one wrong move at the door can derail an entire case.
It's this complex, high-stakes world that operates almost completely out of sight. But I want to leave our listeners with a thought that's been nagging at me since I started reading these logs. We talk about how hard it's becoming to hide.
The world is getting very small, very transparent.
It used to be, if you wanted to dodge a lawsuit, you just disappeared.
Okay.
You didn't answer the door. But with the efficiency we're seeing now, pinning someone down to a specific latitude and longitude,
It raises a pretty big question.
is the era of disappearing over? In a world of absolutely digital and physical transparency, is it even possible to hide from the law anymore?
And that's the real provocative thought. We might be entering an age where accountability is inescapable, and whether that's ultimately good for justice or maybe a little terrifying for personal privacy.
Well, that's something for you to decide.
A little something to chew on.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the gritty world of process serving. We'll see you on the next one. Stay curious.